You're joining us directly from Norway. We're in Norway.
Oslo, in Norway, so far away. But I'd like to start with something that Dave actually said, and that is trust. Trust not only to your organization, but also to your society. And do you know, Edgar, why Norway, yeah, I know, Norway, always are on the top of all these global rankings of, superiority? You know why?
Because Kai?
No, I wish, but I have nothing to do with that. No, it has to do with trust. So in the Nordic countries, so Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and to some extent also Finland, we have this idea that we trust society, we trust government, we trust them to mean as well, even though they do make mistakes. And sometimes it doesn't look like they try to fix their mistakes, but we still, we trust them. And according to these research questions around this, that trust is a major part of what we call the Nordic model, which we blame or use as a reason for why we're doing so well on those scales.
Okay, so I know this is great. Last time I saw you, we were together in Cartagena in CISO's Latin Summit event that I organized down there, and you provided some fantastic words of wisdom that still within the group that we continue talking about. We still talk about the silver bullet and stuff like that. So what are you going to be giving us?
There tonight.
Yeah,
I'm not going there tonight.
but I am looking forward to your presentation today. So you're not going to be sharing any slides you mentioned? You're going to do something? How are we going to do this?
So I made you like this, so then you see those. And then, of course, if you do insist on seeing me too, then here I am.
Sounds good. So I'll go ahead and go on mute and get myself out of the way. I appreciate it, Kai. Thank you so much.
Gracias. Muchas gracias. So my name is Kai Roer. I am the managing director of KnowBe4 Research. Like Dave, I've been in this industry for almost 30 years. And most of that time, or at least half of that time, I've been focusing on something very intangible. It's called security culture. And today I am trying to take that fluffiness from security culture and turn it into something relatable and tangible, something you can actually act on and even understand why this suddenly becomes important. So basically, security culture is tightly connected to how you can reduce the risk of credential sharing by 52 times. Wouldn't that be nice? I think so. Now, before we start, 94% of security leaders around the world believe that security culture is critical to their security programs. Now, this is not just me saying this. This was a survey we did together with Forrester a year ago. And this is interesting because had we done this 5 years ago, probably 1%, if that, would have said that security culture is important. But this tells us that today we do understand that the human side of security is actually very important. And although we may not agree what security culture actually is, we do agree that it is important. That brings us to the question. So this security culture thing, is it just, this fluffy idea or dream that we are having? Or is it a real thing? Is it something that we can actually see or almost touch and do things with? So over the years, I've been working with security culture. I've been meeting questions or feedback like this. Kai, culture is like fluffy, it's almost like this pink sugary goo you get on the carnival and you eat. It is just nothing inside it, just this fluffiness, or hard to document, if you like. People also claim that culture is difficult to observe. Well, it may be, but maybe it's not. And also, of course, I have been met with this, Kai, you say that we need to measure culture, but that gotta be impossible. So let's dig into those three points. The first one, it's hard to document culture. And this is something that we still hear a lot today, even though there is a big or growing academic body of research, not only in sociology or organizational theoretic perspectives of culture itself, but also on security culture. And the fascinating thing with this research is that you have a number of different perspectives. So for example, you have computer scientists looking at security culture and try to describe it, try to define it, and then try to measure it. Likewise, you have organizational theorists doing the same. MIT, for example, lead the program on that. You have sociologists, you have psychologists. It's a lot of functional or a lot of different areas that are looking at security culture and culture. So it is possible, at least, to document. But in addition to the academic side of things, we also have industry-led security culture approaches. Some of you may know about my work over the past 15 years, including the Security Culture Framework, which was published in 2011. And that's 10 years ago now. I'm like, wow, that went fast. But this kind of approaches from the industry also shows that there is an interest to understand security culture and work with security culture, not only from an academic, high level, almost ivory tower side, but also from the industry. So there is agreement that we need this, and there is a growing body of research helping us understand what it is and how to deal with it. Now, the next example here, difficult to observe security culture. Well, sorta not. If I then take an example, not really security, but the example can be transferred to anything, culture. So first of all, culture is everywhere. All of us has at least one culture. Most of us have actually multiple cultures, but I'll get back to that later. Imagine that you are having coming to a shop, a kiosk or whatever you call these things in the US, where you can buy ice cream, and there they have this soft ice machine. They zoop, and then you get this nice cold soft ice, and you can scoop it in your mouth. In this particular shop, they have 3 different colors soft ice. Something in Norway I hardly ever see. Here is only one, white. But in this particular shop, you will see 3 different colors: white, brown, and green. Now, your culture will determine how you answer my next question. What do these different colors taste like? So white, what is the color of the white? Brown, what is that color? What does it taste, this brown soft ice? And then the green one, what's the taste of that? Now, to you, this may sound like a very banal, very stupid question, even like, yeah, but I know that the brown one is chocolate. Of course it is, always been, always will be. But here's the interesting thing. That answer or that idea, that cultural bias, if you like, is not universal. Because depending on where you are on this very planet, the answer will actually depend. If you are, for example, in Japan, that brown color don't signal chocolate. Instead, it signals sweet beans. And I'm like, that could be chocolate, but it's not those kind of beans. It's sweet beans. Very different taste, believe me. And then the green one, same there. In my mind, the green one is like pistachio. And I'm like, oh, I want that. I want to cool down with a nice, soft ice pistachio taste. I order it. In Norway, I would get pistachio. In Kyoto, in Japan, however, the green one would taste like green tea. And depending on where you are when you're watching this, and your cultural luggage or baggage, if you like, will determine the answer to my question. Fairly simple. What is the taste of these 3 colors? So the point I'm trying to make here is that culture is everywhere. It's embedded in you. And culture also controls the ideas you have of the world around you, including the taste of ice cream. It also determines the kind of customs or habits that you have, and it determines the behaviors you have. So culture is everywhere. And that also is true when it comes to security culture, which then basically is a subset of culture. It's the part of culture that influences your security. You can observe this by, for example, password habits, or what kind of tools you use to log into your email, not an Xbox One, I hope. But you can also observe security culture by your organization. How do they stop these different approaches? Do they apply zero trust, for example, or not? Do they focus on security, or is it like we don't even care? So culture and security culture can be observed, and it is everywhere. Now, what about the measurement side then? How easy or impossible, if you like, is it to measure something intangible like culture? Well, again, the academics have taught us over the past 20 years, actually, how to measure security culture. And there are a number of different approaches, from asking employees several hundred questions on specific IT-related or security IT-related topics, to observations, to eye tracking movements on how people read their email. All these kind of things academics have been doing. In addition, you also have industrial or tools available from the industry. I, for example, created a measurement tools together with the University of Ljubljana 6 years ago now. And this we packaged and made commercially available, which is now being promoted and sold by KnowBe4. And that is only one of the ways you can measure security culture. There are a number of other tools available to you. I will, of course, claim that ours is the best. And because it is scientific and all that stuff, I am right. But, you know, you'll be your own judge. Now that we have taken a little bit short look at the fluffiness, which really isn't that fluffy anymore, of culture, let's agree on a definition of security culture. So when it comes to defining security culture, there are a number of different things that we need to consider. For example, who is this definition for? Is it for marketing? Well, then we maybe need something short and fancy and flashy. Or is it for the academics? Well, then we for sure will need something very detailed and something that we can relate to a lot of other areas. Or in this case, it is actually for the practitioners. So people like me, people like you, people who are out there in the trenches and trying to understand how can we work with security culture. And that's why I prefer this definition. It is made for us who works with this. And then the definition of security culture is the ideas, which basically is all the ideas and the thinking patterns that a certain group has. All the customs or the habits, if you like, of what they are doing without really thinking of it. And then the social behaviors. And I emphasize social here because as humans, we have a number of different kinds of behaviors, but we adjust and attune and adapt to whatever setting we are socially. So, and in there lies that for an organization, if you tweak the social parameters, you can also tune your security culture. So basically the ideas, customs, and social behaviors of an organization, so that's what we are looking at here, right? And how those things influence that organization's security. So that's a definition. Easy, it's relatable, and you can use it. Now that we can agree, at least I can't hear you say anything else, so I will say that we agree on this. Awesome, we can move on. Because when we have security culture, which to some still may be a little bit fluffy, one of the really fantastic things today is that we also have data. And that data we can combine in such ways that we can actually understand culture from different perspectives, things we couldn't do just a few years ago. And what I'm going to share now is some work my team did end of last year. And we were looking at the different sources of information. So security culture, basically using our tool to measure security culture, and then look at how the different groups responded and put them into 4 different categories, from good security culture to poor security culture, through mediocre, and a third one, which I will show on my slide in a moment. And then we take that data and compare it to phishing data. And for this, we surveyed almost 100,000 employees worldwide. So basically, this is the largest research in this area to date. We had more than 1,100 organizations, 49 countries. So this is a true global study. We have not, I know this is a question that comes up sometimes, we have not divided or dug into different countries, for example. So I can't say how Norway is doing compared to US, or how Canada is compared to the rest of the world, for example. Those things I don't know, at least not yet. Now, what did this tell us? First of all, we saw a very little or small differences of the employees who open phishing emails. And I think that that's probably normal, and we can explain it in a number of ways. For example, some of these emails you need to actually open to examine before you know if they are phishing or not. And also training helps to some extent, but usually you will have to open it before you can report it or do anything with it. So that basically explains why roughly 30% of across all the 4 security culture groups opened emails. But when it gets interesting, though, is when we look at who is clicking on links or opening attachments. This is where you see the difference between the classes of security culture. So as you see here, good security culture, or employees and organizations with good security culture, they only clicked on 6.1% of all of these phishing assessments. Whereas in the poor culture, 16.4 actually clicked. So already here, when it comes to clicking, we see that there are differences on culture. And when it comes to clicking, there are attacks where you can actually click on something and then suddenly your computer has been infested by something. Maybe not very common anymore, but it's still out there. But it gets more interesting. Let's take a look at credential sharing. Here we see the true impact of poor culture and good culture. In fact, we see that out of 1,000 phishing emails in the poor security culture, 52 of them will be successfully harvesting credentials. I will repeat that. If you have a poor security culture, every 52 out of 1,000 phishing emails will successfully collect credential data. Now, imagine what they do with this. I can say business email compromise, and you're like, oh, yeah, whoops, that can be expensive. And that's just one example. Now, take a look at what happens in an organization with good security culture. Suddenly, we are looking at 0.1% engagement or sharing credentials. This basically means that 1 out of those 1,000 phishing emails will be successfully collecting credentials. And this is huge. It basically is a 52 times difference between poor security culture and good security culture. And this is evidence for why we need good security culture. It's no longer only me, tooting my own horn and saying, yeah, it's good and it's beautiful and it's fantastic. We have facts showing that this is good business sense, it's good security sense, and it's good risk management sense. So take a good look into your risk acceptance strategy and decide whether or not you want to accept 52 out of 1,000 emails, or maybe 1 out of 1,000 phishing emails being successfully harvesting credentials or the keys to the door to your organization. Same data, just a different view, just to show the difference between the 4 classes, and I can share these slides later so you can take a look at them. Based on this, we also created what we call a risk matrix, basically to make it easier to communicate this, not to security people, but to business management and leaders, those who help you, hopefully by funding your efforts. So this one, for example, it shows the different classes and the engagement that the users do per 1,000 emails. So again, the gray one is opening, the green one is clicking, and the orange one is entering data. But the interesting thing that we added on this slide is that arrow going from poor, down in the left corner, all the way up to the top right corner. And that you see on the right-hand side. Basically, you reduce the risk almost to 100% by going from a poor culture to a good culture. Now, show this to the board. I'm pretty sure they will be interested in funding your programs. A different way of communicating the same, just to make sure you get it exactly correct. So 52 in 1,000 phishing emails being successful, or 1, or even less than 1, if you really want to do it well. A caveat on the excellent security culture there. Our data don't have enough organizations with excellent security culture, which means that the best we can do for now is to say it will be less than 1,000 phishing emails. We can't yet say that it will be 1 in 10,000 or 1 in a million, because we don't know. But yes, my team is digging into that, and we will have an answer at some point. So now that you have this background and the data, what would I suggest that you do? Well, obviously, I think that based on my background, so that's my biases right there, I think that you should put in place a security culture program. You may, for example, use a security culture framework or any other tool or methodology that suits your needs. Basically, you need to assess or measure where you are and figure out, do I have a poor culture? Do I have a good culture? Those kind of things. Based on that, you may even want to single out those employees who need it the most. So basically, those employees are scoring worst on, for example, the security culture survey, or consistently clicking on phishing links. Then I strongly suggest that you target those people who need it and give them the kind of training or education that they need. Not the stuff that legal or compliance tell you to give everybody, but the specific training program and content that these employees need in order to learn the right way of doing these things. Then, of course, you monitor and you go back to the top and start again. Assess, measure, identify target audience, target the training or adapt it if you like, monitor the situation, go back and repeat. Yes. With that, I think there are a few minutes for questions. I hope we have some. If not, I will have my barbecue, because over here it's like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. My workday is over. I will have a drink, not by the pool, but at least in my garden.
Hey, no, we have a couple of questions from Andres Almanza. He comes from Colombia. You probably remember him from Cartagena. He said culture is defined like a value that people and organizations share and create, and an environment that they follow and build around them. I mean, you agree with that statement, right? I mean, that's
so that is one of many different definition of culture. This sounds like one of those that are mainly used within management training, business colleges, and that side of it. So organizational theory. And I'm not saying it's wrong,
Yeah, right.
but I'm also not saying it is right. And that is the problem with all or most of these definitions. It's very difficult to create a capture all a kind of definition when it comes to culture by in the first sense, and then about security culture. But if we are not playing academics and are like, okay, looking at this from a pragmatic perspective, whatever definition that works for you and your organization and the work you need to do, go for it. Yeah. The semantics here doesn't actually matter. What do matter is that we improve the security culture of our organizations.
Right, and yeah, whatever that means for ourselves. So that's a big difference. The whole thing. I mean, I'm looking at this at the 5.2%. Shared credentials as compared to 0.1%. So that was poor. So worldwide in your study, did you show what is the percentage of organizations worldwide that are poor?
Yeah, so we didn't look into that in this round because it will take another 6 to 12 months to get those data. So we decided that this finding itself is so interesting and so important that we decided to publish on this, and then me going out there and you know, lecture. But this is one of the first real evidences, connections between security culture and actual behavior, security behavior. And this is really, really important, we believe, for the industry to you know, digest.
Yeah, that's a very big number. Again, 52 out of 1,000 phishing emails are basically successful.
Which is scary. I mean, in a world with business email compromise, just as one example of many ways they use these credentials, I mean, 52 out of 1,000 phishing emails are successfully harvesting credentials. I mean, I may be in the wrong business here.
I think we all are. I don't know. It's a sobering data result that you're showing there. And again, you mentioned 100,000 people.
Yeah, so the exact companies. Number is 97,000 something.
Yeah.
So almost 100,000 employees in this particular study.
That's incredible. That's incredible. All right. Well, Kai, thank you so much. So what's on the barbecue? You have some reindeer, or what the hell you have over there?
Well, because of the American audience, maybe I will have whale today.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah. That's a cultural artifact for you right there.
Right there. Exactly. Exactly. Well, Kai, as always, thank you so much for being here at Tactical Edge. And